If you have your Bible tonight, go to Judges chapter number 14. Judges chapter number 14, as we'll continue to look here at Samson tonight. And there's quite a lot about Samson, and I believe there is something for us to glean here tonight and to learn from the Scriptures. Judges chapter number 14. As you remember, I believe it was last Wednesday night that we looked at chapter 13, and we talked about blessings born under a burden. And we talked about how that Samson, that is eventually going to be the answer to the Philistines to begin to get God's people out of bondage from the Philistines, how that when he came about, when he was foretold of the angel of the Lord there, of Jesus there, when he was foretold that he was going to be born there, what the circumstances going on in the land was, and how burdened there his mama had to be, Manoah's wife. We don't have her name there in the text, but of how burdened she had to be and how bad of a timing it really was. And a lot of times in our life we think the same thing, but a lot of times out of these burdens, blessings will show up as well. And we get to the point there at the tail end of that Samson is born in verse 24, and then in verse 25 you find the Spirit of the Lord has began to rest on him from time to time, and Samson's starting to do some big things. But we'll pick up our reading here in verse number 1 of chapter 14. And Samson went down to Timnath, and saw a woman in Timnath of the daughters of the Philistines. I began to dwell and look here, and Lord willing we'll get most of this chapter tonight. But I began to study and look here, and it caught my attention there in the first verse. Samson went down. He went down. We've talked about that a lot of times, even there, and I believe it's Luke 10 in the story of the Good Samaritan there, as a certain man went down from towards Jericho there as he was going down. And we talked about how a lot of times when the Bible says down, it's not only a direction, but it's also a picture of what's about to happen. It's letting us know that their life is about to go downhill. It's about to get to the point to where some things are happening here to Samson's life, and he's about to get into some trouble. He's about to have some issues, and it's really going to start the story of Samson's life. I know he was born in the previous chapter, but this right here is really going to begin to show us who Samson is and how Samson's life is going to turn out. Now, if I was to have asked this before all the kids ran out, so I'll just ask it to the big kids tonight, Samson's life, what is Samson known for? Strength. He's so strong. He's one of the judges here. He's so strong. He went and he did all these great feats. And we think about Samson as the biblical version of Superman a lot of times. When you teach it to kids in the Sunday school classes or a youth class on a Wednesday night, try to get them to understand, we're like, he's like Superman. He can do all of these things because God has given him all of this strength and all this power. And we put Samson way up here, and everybody just loves the story of Samson. Everybody talks about how wonderful Samson was and how cool it is that Samson was so strong to do all these great and mighty things. But I want us to realize tonight that the life and the story of Samson, it's not one of those great, grand, celebratory type of stories. Samson's life was a tragedy. As strong as he was, of all the things that he is going to end up going through, Samson was lonely. Samson had gone away from the Lord and gone and tried to do it on his own. Samson goes through a lot of pain, a lot of heartache. I mean, one of Samson's greatest deeds, the Bible even records, and I'm jumping ahead in the text here, but when Samson, if you remember the story, before I skip ahead, how did Samson die? Do y'all remember? He pulled the pillars down on his head. Remember, he was sitting there, and he had his eyes put out by the Philistines, and they had him there, and they were treating him like a circus act, so to speak, in their big old grand party, and they were looking down there at Samson, and they were like, oh, Samson was so strong. Samson, where's your God at now? Where's all the power that you had? And they had him there as a circus attraction, and the little old boy comes up, and Samson says, hey, get me to the pillars of the building that I might lean on them and rest on them. And you remember he prayed there along the lines of, Lord, just one more time. One more time, give me strength. One more time. And he takes those pillars and he pushes, and it says the roof collapses. Memory serves, like 3,000 people, figuratively, something like that. And we look at it, and the Bible records that he killed more people in his death than he had his entire life. Do y'all remember that? I said 3,000. I don't think the Bible actually says, but I did a bunch of research on it one time and tried to figure out, based off of how big the building probably was, how many people could fit on the roof. I went engineer on it, and I tried to figure that out because I thought it'd be cool. And it seems like I came up with that big old grand number. We know it had to be a lot. It had to be more than 1,000, because how many people did he kill with the jawbone? 1,000. How many did he kill here in this story? Y'all remember the riddle that he puts forth? He says, if y'all tell me my riddle, I'll give y'all 30 changes of garments. Y'all remember that? If not, I'm going to tell you about it here again in just a second. So we know he goes and he kills 30 people there, so we're at 1,030. There's more of them that he kills over and over and over again. So we had a lot of people. But anyways, Samson's life here, we want to talk about him doing all these grand feats, but at the end of the day, Samson's life is a tragedy. Samson's life is not one that I would pick to live. If I was going to pick somebody's life to live, Samson's not at the top of my list. He's not the one that I want to be associated with. I don't want to be him. A lot of people probably wouldn't agree with this. They think Paul would be great to be. I don't think it'd be great to be Paul, because I don't care nothing about being stoned and left for dead and drug out of the city and have to get up and go back in. Maybe that's just me, but I don't care nothing about that. People are like, what about John? He's the only disciple that died a natural death according to church history. Yeah, but there's a lot of stories about all the pain and the suffering and the martyrdom that he went through as well. He just didn't die because of it. So I don't know if I want to be John either. Really, I don't know who I would pick. If I was going to be any of them, I would probably be the prodigal son, because he'd probably hit more close home than anybody else. Probably be a sinner that everybody looked at and said, man, he's a rotten, wretched sinner. There's no way that God could do something with him, and yet here we are. Maybe that's the one that I'm the closest to tonight. I don't know. But I wouldn't pick to be Samson. I would not pick to be his life and have to go through that because of the tragedy. And his tragedy is going to start right here in this little town by the name of Timnah. Now, I did some study on Timnah, and it's hard to say. I'm going to say that like 5 different ways tonight, I feel like. Timnah here. I was doing some research here on where he went. You'll see if I labeled it tonight, my title is The Trap at Timnah. The trap that's laid in place here. And you'll see in Samson's trip, first of all, where he went. He went down to Timnah. Where in the world is that at? What is the significance of this little place? If you're curious and you'd like to know, you could go to your maps in the back of your Bible. I'd show you around about where it is. That probably won't be on your map because it's that small. But you find the map of Israel. You find that little old town by the name of Gath, there of the Philistines. And you go up just a little bit, and it's about even with Jerusalem there. And it's just east there of Gath, about as far north as Jerusalem. So right in there. But here's what's important about Timnah. It is known because it is the town where Israel ends and Philistine land starts up. It's known as a little border town, or could I put it to you this way? I was looking at it here, and it was labeled as a cultural melting pot. A place where the lines are blurred. A place where you can go, and if you want to live as a Philistine, you can. If you want to live as an Israelite there, you can. It's a place that's not just a town for the Israelites and not just a town for the Philistines. It's where anything goes that you want to go. It's a place that is a melting pot. It's a place where you can go and act how you want to. I had written out here, it's a place where when Samson shows up, he can look around and say, I'm not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. I'm not in Kansas anymore. This is not like home. This is not the place that I grew up in. This is not how things were at Mama and Daddy's house. He can look at it and say the behavior here is different. This culture is different than the way people act where I'm from. I can look at it and say they've dressed different. People don't dress like this back home. Their language is different. People don't talk like this back home. The entertainment is different. They love this and love that, and we don't do that back home. We're not like them. They are different than us. Their religion is different here. Some might serve God, and some might serve Dagon. They're the god of the Philistines. They have this whole melting pot where you do whatever you want to do. It's a different religion there. And I put here that the pressure is different in this town as well. Instead of it being an atmosphere of pushing him towards God, to live for God as he is there in the land of Israel, instead this is a place that pushes him away from God. As I was studying this text and looking at it, one thing kept popping into my mind, and it hits close to home here. It's the advice that I give to every parent when their kids get ready to go to college. Don't let them live at college. I tell them all that. And they look at me like, why in the world? Because if I had $1 For every person that I've seen that has been a good, strong Christian that has gone to college and has lost it when they got to college, I'd be a very wealthy man. Because they get there, and what college represents to them is Timnah. And I'll explain it to you, and I'll give you some examples. I'm not saying college is a bad thing. I got a degree. I paid a lot of money for the degree. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's not for everybody. It's not a bad thing. But it is a bad atmosphere. I can tell you that 100% it is a bad atmosphere. I can tell you the friends that I have that went to college. Let me just give you this example right off the bat when I get there. I had some friends that I grew up with, and I commuted to ICC, and they lived over there. Between classes one day, he said, "Hey man, come over to our apartment and just hang out until you have your next final." Sounds good. I walk in, they had to give me the grand tour. All 4 rooms of the place. Give me the grand tour. They said, "You know what our favorite part is?" I'm like, "Oh, what's that?" They carried over there to the return air vent, opened it up, took the air filter out, and they had a stash of whiskey and beer. Sat underneath the air conditioning unit, hid from their parents. That's their favorite part. I had another buddy. He ended up going to Ole Miss as a freshman. Let me tell you where his life went. He got over there, began to hang out with folks he had no business hanging out with. And last time I talked to him back then, he didn't have a place to stay. They had lost the lease that he was staying at. Didn't have anybody to room up with, so he talked to somebody he knew, and they were allowing him to live on their couch so that he could still go to college there. I don't know about you, but that don't seem like a place I want to be, where I'm having to pay part of the rent to sleep on the couch. And I've watched these people in their lives who have gone down and down and down and down. Brother Easton, why did that happen? I'll tell you why it happened. Because just like Samson here has left a land there in Israel where everybody is trying to serve God and they're trying to live for God, and his parents are helping him to live for God. How can you say that? I can say it this way. What is he supposed to be from the womb? A Nazirite. Nazirite can't have fruit of the vine. A Nazirite can't do all of these things. Nazirite can't cut his hair. How many of y'all know 2- and 3-year-olds that know they can't have a grape? Nobody. The parents had to help him keep his vow. Before he was even old enough to keep his vow, his parents were helping him keep that vow. I would venture to say that his parents even kept part of that vow themselves just to make it easier. When Sue was pregnant with Darden, she got gestational diabetes. There's a lot of things she could not have. And me being the loving, caring husband that I am, instead of her making 2 meals, I ate what she ate. Except for when I was at work, then I ate what I wanted to eat. But anyways, I ate what she did at home. She couldn't have soft drinks. We couldn't have sweet tea. So I started there at that whatever month it was. I think I started it in like September. And I made it over a year, and I never drank anything but unsweet tea and water and milk for like a year. That was pretty tough. But I gave up some things. I tried to be good on that. But I've noticed here, when kids go to a schoolhouse where people are no longer pushing them to be good, and the parents are not there to be that good influence and to make sure they're at church and to make sure they're taking care of business, they get to go somewhere out by themselves and their whole life changes. That's what's going on with Samson's life here. He's leaving Mom and Daddy's house. He's gone to Timnah down here. He's just going to get into a place where these people are not like back home. They don't live like back home. They don't dress like back home. They don't act like back home. They don't have the same desires as back home. When I was growing up, the only thing we could do after a ball game was we would go have a bonfire. That's all we could do. You go to Ole Miss, they don't go out in the field and have a bonfire. They go to the square and see who can get drunk the quickest. They go and try all these different things that they want to be a part of. It's not like it was for me back home at Mom and Daddy's house. I had the opportunity to go and do whatever I wanted to do in my Timnah, my college experience, my place down there. And how many times have we heard a mom or a daddy say this, and this hits close to home? I want them to go and live their life and have fun in their college experience. I've heard it. I've heard parents say that. These are the same parents, and I want to be vague on this, these are the same parents whose child just had TikTok stories and everything else posted where she's blacked out drunk. What are you talking about, Brother Easton? I'm trying to tell you that this little place called Timnah, where Samson got to leave Mom and Daddy to go down here by himself, there were some traps there that were going to set the tone for the rest of his life. Mamas and daddies, and I know, most of y'all's kids are outside the college age. I get every single bit of that, but that applies to each and every one of us as well. There are places in our life that we should not allow ourselves to go because they are traps and they are places that will get us in trouble and they will set us up for a long downhill road. They are slippery slopes that we got to stay away from. But Samson here, he's gone down to this place that's completely different. It's a melting pot where anything goes. It's the modern day Vegas, if I could put it that way. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. What happens at Timnah stays down there. He could go down there and do what he wanted to do. He got away from mom and daddy. He went down to a place that was different than everywhere else. What was he looking for when he was down there? I believe he was looking for an escape from his responsibilities. Why do kids always want to leave home? I don't know if y'all have heard this. I pray that you've never heard this as far as your own kids saying it to you. I can't wait till I'm 18 years old. I'm going to leave this house. I'm going to do whatever I want to. Mom and Daddy ain't going to tell me what to do no more. Isn't that the attitude of kids now? Once I'm 18, I'm gone. I'm out of here. I'm done with this. I'm not living under Mom and Daddy's roof no more. I'm going to go and do what I want to do. I had friends like that. I had people like that I knew too. I believe he left because he was trying to escape some responsibilities. Mom and Dad ain't the boss of me. I'm done living the way they tell me to. I think another reason he left was he was trying to escape from expectations. Have you ever thought about this from Samson's point of view? Samson grows up 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, however old he is, all the way through. His buddies are eating grapes. I want a grape. No! Can't have that grape, Samson. You can't have through the vine. You're a Nazarite, remember? Little buddy comes in. They just went to the World Series in baseball, and he got his little mohawk shaved in the top of his head. Samson looks at him and says, "Oh, Mom, I want to cut my hair like little Timmy. That looks awesome." No! You can't cut your hair, Samson. You can't do that. You can't be like them. You can't live your life that way. And I wonder if Samson ever acted like every other kid would and soiled up and said, "Why do I got to be a Nazarite anyways? I didn't decide to do this. Why do I got to live this way?" I wonder if any kids have ever looked at Mom and Daddy and said, "Why do I got to get up and go to church? Why can't I go and drink and party and act like a crazy? Why can't I do this? Why can't I do that?" And now Mom and Daddy always get to look at them and give that famous story that everybody hears. "Well, if all your friends jumped off a bridge, would you jump too?" Y'all heard it. You probably said it too, didn't you? My parents have said it, and one of these days I'll get to say it too, more than likely. Why can't I do everything they're doing? Because you're a Nazarite, honey. You're a Nazarite. All the way from the womb. And he probably got upset because he's having to live the way that he was being told to live. Let me get out of here. I want to go and do something completely different. I'm tired of this. And I believe maybe he went because he had an idea that he was going to go and find himself. That seems to be the new thing now. I'm going to go to college, and I want to move out, and I want to go find myself. Figure out who I'm going to be, what I want to do, who I want to hang out with, how I want to live my life, my hobbies, my habits. I want to go and do all of these different things. I want to go have a good time. I'm going to go try something new. I want to go see something new, meet somebody new. I want to go do whatever I want to do. That's what Samson's mindset is like. He's finally getting away, and he's going down to this town. He goes down there, and he's looking for some things. What does he find while he's down there? Let me read. Verse 2. Telling verse 1. He saw a woman in Timnah of the daughters of the Philistines. What's he looking for? He's looking for a woman. How do you know he's looking for a woman? Because he looked among the daughters of the Philistines. That's how I know. He was looking for a woman. He had a desire to go down there and have something he wasn't supposed to have. To go down into a land he had no business going to live it up in the way that he wanted to live it up. That's the atmosphere surrounding college towns today. This isn't a message about college, by the way, just an example I feel like we all can understand. What does he find when he's down here? Well, he does find that woman. He finds something he likes. He finds a temptation. He finds a trap. But I believe he finds a point of separation. What are you talking about? Samson has gone down to Timnah here. When he left, he was Mom and Daddy's little boy. When he got down there, he decided to do whatever he wanted to do, and it was like he broke off from his parents in the way that he was supposed to be raised. He's supposed to be a Nazarite. He's supposed to be holy unto God. He's supposed to live his life in a certain way. He's supposed to stay away from a bunch of different things. He ought to live a holy and separated life. That's what he is supposed to be doing. But instead he goes down there to a place that he can get a separation from everything else that he's supposed to be doing. Why is this? He goes verse 2. And he came up and he told his father and his mother and said, I have seen a woman in Timnah of the daughters of the Philistines. Now therefore get her for me to wife. Then his father and his mother said unto him, Is there never a woman among the daughters of thy brethren, or amongst all my people? You have all of these women to pick from, Samson, but no. You want to go and get the only ones we told you not to go and get. Is there never one here that thou goest to take a wife for the uncircumcised Philistines? And Samson said unto his father, Get her for me, for she pleaseth me well. I believe he got separated from his friends. I'm sure Samson had some good friends back home at Mom and Daddy's house, living in the land of Israel, living where everybody was trying to push him and to help him and encourage him. That's the atmosphere that we want our kids raised in, is it not? That's what I always told our youth kids. Anytime there's an FCA or a devotion or anything like that goes on in the schoolhouse, everybody talks about, you have some good godly friends around you. You're not the only one that wants to live for God. Everybody get together. It's easier to stand up and live for God when it's a whole group of you instead of just one or two. That's what we tell them every single time. Everything that I've been to talks about that. We talk about Daniel chapter number 3, when everybody else is bowing down to Nebuchadnezzar's idol. You stand strong. You and your buddies, you stand up, because we're supposed to lean on one another. Iron sharpeneth iron. We ought to all gather around one another and help to push each other up and to keep everybody living the right way. But what happens when your support group is in Israel and you leave to go to Timnah? I told you I was going to say it wrong like 5 times tonight. What happens when you leave your support group over here and you go over there? Over my experience, and all the people that I've seen do it, they leave the church they grew up in. They leave the family that loves them. They leave the friends that go to church with them and help them to be, help them to be better. They leave the people that do sharpen them. They leave the people that are there to help them. They leave the ones that will help them up when they fall down. They leave that support group to go over here and chase somebody else and chase something else. And they get out here and the first thing they do is surround themselves with the new friends. What do the new friends do? They pull them away. They pull them away. What happened in Luke chapter number 15, the prodigal son? He left Daddy's house. He left where all the hired servants were. He left his brother. He went into that land and he lived and he wasted all his inheritance. He wasted all his money with what? Riotous living. What's that? That's a party. That's a party. He went and he lived it up. And there's no record anywhere in that scripture of anybody from home going to try to keep him out of that. But he got right there, and everybody, all they wanted to do is enjoy Daddy's money that he was spending on them. Used to work with a guy. He was from Detroit. He was at Ole Miss. He was going to be a chemical engineer is what he was going for at Ole Miss. I'm talking about crazy smart. I mean, I couldn't hardly talk to him at the time. But his parents were both patent lawyers in Detroit. Okay? He come in one day to work. We were both interning together. And he was all downcast and upset. And I said, what are we going to eat for lunch? He said, I ain't got no money. I'm not going to eat lunch. I'm about ain't got no money. He's never brought anything like this up before. So my parents cut me off. Why did your parents cut you off? He said, because they got my credit card bill back. In one semester, living in a frat house at Ole Miss, he had a $3,000 liquor bill on Mom and Daddy's credit card. What happened? Well, a freshman went to Ole Miss. He wanted some friends. You know how he got his friends? He bought them all the booze they wanted. What'd they do? They pulled him into something he didn't need to be a part of. What happens to Samson? He gets away from the atmosphere back home, and he ends up down here, and he gets pulled in to the women of the Philistines. What happens when we get away from the things that have been faithful to us and have loved on us and have helped us, and we go somewhere else? Don't be shocked if you get pulled into something. It's a trap. It's a trap that's been laid for our young people. Go see the world. You only live once. Go and experience it. Go and make some memories. Go and live it up. Have a big time. He got separated from his friends. He got separated from his family. He got separated from his faith. Because when he went down to this little place, he left all that over there. And it's amazing. When he left all that over there, guess what else he's supposed to be separated away from? All his fun is just to end. He got separated away from his friends and his family and his faith and his fun. Because now this is beginning the sad story of Samson. And it's going to go downhill real quick. You see Samson's trial after that. Verse 4. His father and his mother knew not that it was of the Lord that he sought an occasion against the Philistines. For at that time the Philistines had dominion over Israel. Then went Samson down and his father and his mother to Timnah, and came to the vineyards of Timnah, and behold, a young lion roared against him. And the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and he rent him as he would have rent a kid. And he had nothing in his hand. But he told not his father or his mother what he had done. He went down and talked with the woman, and she pleased Samson well. And after a time he returned to take her, and he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion. And behold, there was a swarm of bees and honey in the carcass of the lion. And he took thereof in his hands and went on eating, and came to his father and mother and gave them, and they did eat. But he told not them that he had taken the honey out of the carcass of the lion. I've always wondered what the significance of that is. Now I think I might actually stumbled across something. This right here symbolizes Samson breaking away from the Nazirite vow. You know what part of the Nazirite vow was? Go read Numbers chapter number 6. You'll find he's not supposed to touch a dead body. What's he doing? He's eating out of a dead body. Don't that sound great? That's what I would do if I saw something dead on the side of the road with a bunch of bees swarming around it and honey coming out. What he's done here is he is symbolizing how that he is separating himself away from what his life was supposed to be like. But then he takes it and he gives it to his parents as well. It's almost like he's laughing at them. He didn't tell them where it came from, but I'm going to give it to them anyways, and they don't realize it. But me leaving this Nazirite vow, me leaving the way I'm supposed to live, they're doing it too. I believe it symbolizes him breaking away. I believe he's saying here, I'm grown, I can do what I want to do. Can you imagine the heartbreak of Samson's parents? You can't have children. The Lord swings by your way, tells you you're going to have a baby boy. He's going to be a Nazirite. You've worked so hard to help him his whole life when he's there at the house to make sure he didn't mess up the vow. You kept his hair from being cut. You kept his diet clean. You cleansed your own house out because none of that stuff needed to be in the house there. That way there was no temptation. He couldn't accidentally go and get something out of the pantry that he wasn't supposed to have. They have sacrificed. They have done all they could to help Samson live up to what Samson is supposed to be. Can I put it to you this way? They've done what all good parents do, and they've put their kids first. He's tried to do everything he could here to make sure, they've done everything they can to make sure that Samson is the best that Samson could be. Is that not the desire for our kids? Is that not what we want to do? I want to see my kids grow up. I want to see them love the Lord. I want to see them saved at an early age. I want to see them grow up, marry somebody that loves the Lord, and go on serving the Lord together. That's what I want to see. That's what I have a desire for. And if it takes me cleaning some things out of my life and living the way I'm supposed to and keeping some so-called fun out of the way so that we can do that, I'm for it. I want them to live their life to the best that they can be. You want your kids to pass the test. You make them put up the video games and study the night before the test. You make them come inside. They're dirty. You make them come inside and take a shower before they get in the bed. You know what's best for them, and all the time that they don't like it, you make them do it anyways because you know that's what's good for them in the long run. Samson's parents have done what's good for him in the long run. But now he's gotten to that age where mom and daddy don't know nothing anymore, and he's going to leave out and do what he wants to do on his own. And now, right in front of his parents, everything they worked for, he's just taking it, throwing it on the ground, and he's stomping it. I don't know how old Samson is here. Maybe Samson's 20 years old. I don't know. Somewhere. He's old enough to get married. I know they got married early back then. I get all that too. I don't know. Maybe he's 16 to 20, somewhere around in there. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. It's not gospel. I'm just assuming based off of context here. But can you imagine spending all 18 years that you have with your kids before they're considered a legal adult now, to try to do your best and invest in them and give them every possible thing they need to be successful and live a life for God? And as soon as they get old enough to make their own decisions, they say, it's not for me. It's not for me. That's what's going on with Samson's parents right here. They've worked so hard, and now he's thrown the Nazirite vow to the side. He's gone after a Philistine woman. He's tried to leave their house to get out of the land of Israel. He is separated away from friends and family and the faith. He's getting away from all this stuff. And he's going down in the land of the Philistines. You'll find here as he's fixing to get married. Let's see where I'm at here. Verse number 10. So his father went down unto the woman, and Samson made there a feast, for so used the young men to do. It came to pass when they saw him that they brought 30 companions to be with him. Samson said unto them, I will now put forth a riddle unto you. If you can certainly declare it me within the 7 days of the feast, and find it out, then I will give you 30 sheets and 30 changes of garments. But if you cannot declare it me, then ye shall give me 30 sheets and 30 change of garments. And they said unto him, Put forth thy riddle, that we may hear it. He said unto them, Out of the eater came forth meat, and out of the strong came forth sweetness. And they could not in 3 days expound the riddle. So you come up with this little riddle here. But you saw Samson's trip down here to this trap. You've seen Samson's trial. But then lastly, I want you to see Samson's tribe. I'd say this about his tribe. Those that he surrounds himself with, they're all new to him. There was nobody that he used to hang out with. Mom and Daddy, they've brought him down there. His friends that kept him straight, they're not there anymore. The teachers that invested in him, they're not there anymore. The coaches that helped him and tried to mold him to a good young man, they're not there anymore. The people that cared for him, the Sunday school teacher is gone, the preacher is gone, all the folks are gone. Samson is down here, and outside of his father and his mother, he is by himself. And now all of a sudden, did you hear or notice what happened there? They put this riddle out, but in verse number 11, it came to pass when they saw him. Who's the they? The they would be his bride-to-be and her daddy, and that side of the family. When the in-laws saw him, they brought 30 companions to be with him. He's got some new friends now. He's got 30 new folks that have surrounded him. But let me ask you this. Why are those 30 folks there? They ain't there because they care anything about Samson. They're there for the feast. They're there for what Samson can provide for them. Why was the guy that I worked with, why was he probably the most popular freshman in the KA frat over there at Ole Miss? Because if you wanted anything whatsoever, go to him and he'd buy it for you. I'm sure he had a lot of friends, a lot of buddies. Why? Because they could get something out of him. He went to this new land and was surrounded by these other people that lived a completely different way than he was raised to live. I've also noticed this. And this is my own experience. People that I graduated with or that were close to me in age, that had good godly families and grew up in church and professed to love the Lord. They go off to college somewhere, and next thing you know, they have a brand new friend group they have surrounded themselves with, and what happens? They begin to live exactly like the new friend group. They begin to sacrifice all their values. They begin to sacrifice all their morals, all the things that their parents have put into them, all the things that they've learned and they've held to their whole life. They lose every single bit of it, surround themselves with people just like them. Why? So when they look around, they don't feel bad for living the way that they're living. all the time. It is happening every single day. And that's what's happening to Samson. You'll find they're new to him. They're supplied by his in-laws. He needs to realize these 30 people, they weren't just random folks they found on the street somewhere. Somehow, his in-laws knew these 30 people. They knew them well enough to invite them to the feast and to want them to be there for the marriage festivities and all of that. I don't know if it's cousins. I don't know if it's brothers. I don't know if it's just friends. I don't know if it's daddy's workers. I don't know what the case is, but somehow there's some type of correlation here with these new 30 companions, these 30 friends, and the in-laws' family. They had to find them somehow. These are the type of people that Samson is marrying into. They aren't strangers to his in-laws. There's some sort of connection here. And now all of a sudden, this is what they have brought in to be around Samson. Well, what's the matter with that? I'll tell you what's the matter with that. It says in 3 days they couldn't expound the riddle. In verse 15, it came to pass on the 7th day that they said unto Samson's wife, Entice thy husband that he may declare unto us the riddle, lest we burn thee and thy father's house with fire. Have you called us to take that we have? Is it not so? Yeah, they cared a whole lot about Samson and his in-laws, didn't they? They were there for the feast. And when they realized that they might lose the bet, the first thing they did was corner up Samson's wife and say, you better figure out the answer to this, because if you don't, we're going to take you and your father's house and we're going to burn all of y'all alive with fire. That's the only reason you invited us to this wedding, because you had this whole elaborate plan set up to where you're going to make a riddle and you were going to take all of our garments and all of our sheets. You wanted what we had, so you set us up, is what they're saying in the text. That's the type of people that Samson is now marrying into. That's the type of people that he's left all of his good friends and his good parents and his good heritage in Israel to go be a part of. There's all these folks down here in Timnah. But it's not just these friends. Verse 16. And Samson's wife, hold on, let me ask this. What day did they go and ask? What day did they go and warn or threaten his wife that they were going to burn them with fire? What day was that on? The 7th day. All right, now look at verse 16. And Samson's wife wept before him and said, Thou dost but hate me and lovest me not. Thou hast put forth a riddle unto the children of my people and hast not told it me. And he said unto her, Behold, I have not told it my father nor my mother. And shall I tell it thee? And she wept before him the 7 days. Everybody that reads this text looks at it and says, oh, she didn't bother Samson about it. She wasn't on Samson and causing him trouble about it until the 7th day when she got threatened. Not according to your Bible. According to your Bible, starting on day 1, she went and she began to tell Samson, I can't believe you gave this riddle to them and you didn't even tell me. You don't even love me. You say that you love me, you won't even tell me your riddle. 7 days. Over and over and over and over again. And she weeps and she cries and she urges him to give her that answer over and over and over again. She was already wearing Samson down and working on him well before they came and asked her, threatened her to on the 7th day. She wept before him the 7 days while their feast lasted. It came to pass on the 7th day that he told her, because she lay sore upon him, and she told the riddle to the children of her people. She had absolutely no problem whatsoever selling Samson out. Do you not think this story would have gone a little bit differently if Samson's wife would have gone to her new husband that says he loves her and she's supposed to love him back and said, hey, they don't like your riddle. They've threatened to hurt me and Daddy in our house if they don't learn the riddle. Let me give them the answer so that we could just pay the bet and be done with this thing and nobody gets hurt. I'm sure Samson still probably would have been upset, but at least his wife wouldn't have lied to him. At least he wouldn't end up losing her. At least 30 other men in a different city that had nothing to do with this wouldn't lose their lives. At least it wouldn't be so bad. No, that's just the type of people that he's around. These people are wicked. They use one another. They have no care for one another whatsoever. They're not a good place to be. It's a den of thieves, if I can put it that way. He's left a good, loving place in Israel to go and to marry into this over here. They're just there to use him. And the wife was no better. Then we know the rest of the story here. She tells the riddle, and the men of the city said unto him on the seventh day, verse 18, before the sun went down, what is sweeter than honey, and what is stronger than a lion? And he said unto them, if ye had not plowed with my heifer, ye had not found out my riddle. And the Spirit of the Lord came upon him, and he went down to Escalon, and slew 30 men of them, and took their spoil, and gave change of garments unto them, which expounded the riddle. And his anger was kindled, and he went up to his father's house. But Samson's wife was given to his companion, whom he had used as his friend. I would say, if Samson went back and was going to rate his trip down here to Timnah, if he was going to give it a Yelp rating or TripAdvisor rating or whatever it is that does that stuff now, I figured he would probably give it a no out of 5 stars. Because he went down there and he left something real good, and he went down there and thought he was getting him a good wife, and all he did was end up with some messed up friends, and he lost his wife in the process to a friend that was supposed to be a friend that took his wife, and a father-in-law that was supposed to be his father-in-law that gave her to that friend. And he went down there and everything went sideways, and it went south, and it went really bad really quick. It was not a good trip. It was not a good memory whatsoever. And you would think maybe, just maybe, he learns his lesson here with this one. But apparently Samson's not a very quick study. Because what ultimately is going to be the downfall of Samson? What's her name? Delilah. You'd have thought after this first try he might would have learned something, but he didn't. He didn't. It ends up being Delilah. Well, Easton, what are you trying to say? I just want you to know this tonight. Miss Angie, you can come on with the piano. I'm done. Timnah looked real good to Samson. It looked like a place that he wanted to be. It looked like something that he wanted to be a part of. They had all the fun. They had all the games. They had the beautiful women. They had all the things that his heart could possibly desire. He was tired of living at Mom and Daddy's house. He was tired of living as a Nazarite. He was tired of doing all these things. So he set his eyes over there and said, I'm going to go that way. The parallels between this story and the prodigal son are so similar. What did the prodigal son do? Said he got his inheritance and he went where? Into a far country. I don't know about you, but they didn't have Google Maps back then to get to a far country. He had to be planning. That wasn't a snap decision that he made. He had already set up his plan to leave his father's house and go over here. There's young people, there's young kids going to college and leaving some things and going over there, and that's their trap. That's their Timnah. That's the place where things are going sideways for them. They get over there and they've left everything that they know. They're leaving Mom and Daddy. They're leaving the church. They're leaving where they ought to be to go and live how they want to. I hope you haven't experienced it. But you don't know how many parents have come to me and talked to me and cried on my shoulder and wanted to know what happened and why baby girl and baby boy went sideways and left the way that they did. Mama's coming and crying on me because their daughter went to the schoolhouse over there and decided that she no longer liked men, and instead she decided to go start a GoFundMe page to have a surgery to be a different sex and go live in California, and a mama is heartbroken wanting to know what happened. I'm trying to tell you what happened is Timnah, the trap, was sitting over there and it was glowing and it looked so pretty and it looked so beautiful, and it's like moths being drawn to a flame. They're getting carried away into the trap, and when they get there, their lives are getting knocked off the rails and they don't have a way to get back. It's happening every single day. But it's not just happening to our young people. It's happening to our Christians as well. It's happening to our middle-aged folks. No, that's not happening to them. How many people have you heard about just in the last year that have been married 15 to 25 years, now all of a sudden decided their spouse is not good enough for them anymore and they have left them and they've gone and chased something else? It's happening. We're all real quiet tonight, but I hope you realize that the devil has traps everywhere. They look pretty, they look popular, They look like it's a place where we all need to go. We need to all try it because the grass is so green on the other side. But I'm trying to tell you and trying to warn us tonight, trying to warn us as parents, trying to warn us as God's people, that those places are traps. And if we are not careful, we will leave something that is good and faithful and caring and loving on us, and we will go chase something that looks good, and it'll be superficial, it will be empty, it will be fake, and it will be the start of our downhill slide, just like it has been for Samson. Let's all stand tonight, Miss Angie, as you play.